The gavel slammed. The courtroom froze. And then, something happened that left even the most hardened judges gasping for air. This wasn't just another trial. It was an international case that dragged secrets from the darkest corners of power. And by the end, no one in that room would ever forget what they saw. Welcome to Dark Justice Files. Today's story, international court case leaves everyone speechless. The year was 2018. The city, The Hague, Netherlands. Inside the sleek glass building of the International Criminal Court, a storm was brewing. The case on the docket was unlike any before. At the center was a man named Victor Armand, a businessman, a philanthropist, and allegedly a monster. On the surface, Victor was polished. Sharp suits, expensive colognes that lingered in the air. Magazines called him the Gentleman of Paris. But whispers painted a darker picture. Stories of missing journalists, secret bank accounts, and entire villages left in ashes after his private security forces swept through them. Yet nothing ever stuck. Victor was untouchable, until one night, something changed. It was a humid night in Kinshasa, Congo. The streets buzzed with generators and the smell of roasted maize. A young activist named Daniel Okoro livestreamed a protest. His voice shook with courage. "We will not be silent. The world must know the truth." Seconds later, gunshots cracked through the night. The live stream cut, and Daniel disappeared. But the video had already spread. Millions saw Victor's guards in the background, their faces cold, their rifles raised. The outrage was instant. News channels lit up. International lawyers filed charges. And suddenly, Victor Armand found himself summoned to the International Criminal Court. For the first time, he wasn't in control. The courtroom was nothing short of cinematic. Marble floors gleamed under fluorescent lights. The air smelled of paper and polished wood, and the whispers of journalists echoed like a storm. Prosecutors laid out evidence. Emails, wire transfers, satellite images of burned villages. Families testified. A mother sobbed as she described finding her child's shoes in the rubble. A soldier admitted he had taken orders directly from Victor. Every word tightened the noose. But Victor? He sat calm, hands folded, a faint smile dancing on his lips. His lawyers shredded every witness. They questioned memories, twisted timelines, made grief sound like lies. And then came the first twist. A key witness, Daniel's best friend, walked to the stand. The courtroom leaned forward, but instead of pointing at Victor, he pointed to someone else. A government official, an ally of the West, a man who had been sitting in the gallery, pretending to be a silent observer. Gasps rippled through the chamber. The case had just turned upside down. Whispers filled the air. Who was protecting who? Had Victor been framed? Or was this an even bigger conspiracy? The judges demanded answers. The prosecutor demanded time. And then, something happened no one expected. A video surfaced. A leaked file. It showed Daniel. Alive. Not dead. Not missing. But sitting in a dark room, terrified, whispering words that shook the entire court. They want me to say Victor did it. But it wasn't him. It was bigger, much bigger. The room went silent. Even the gavel didn't move. Daniel was alive. And his testimony could destroy everything. But before the defense could celebrate, news broke. The person who leaked the video was found dead in a hotel bathroom. And Daniel? Still missing. The court had no choice but to proceed without him. After months of arguments, the verdict day arrived. The courtroom was packed shoulder to shoulder. The smell of coffee and sweat filled the air. Journalists gripped pens so tightly their knuckles whitened. The chief judge lifted the final ruling. And then the lights went out. A blackout in one of the most secure courts in the world. Papers flew. Gasps echoed. And when the lights flickered back on, Victor's chair was empty. Gone. Vanished. The courtroom erupted into chaos. People screamed. Some swore they saw armed men slip out through a side door. The trial was left hanging in the air. The international community shocked. The victims' families betrayed again. And somewhere out there, Victor was free. This case reminded the world of one chilling truth. Justice, no matter how powerful, can be stolen in the blink of an eye. And as for Daniel, was he alive? Was the video real? Or just another layer of manipulation in a global game of shadows? No one knows. Not yet. But the question remains. When justice itself is on trial, who can we really trust? Darkness, screams, and then silence. When the lights flickered back on inside the International Criminal Court, the unthinkable had happened. Victor Armand's chair was empty. The most wanted man in the courtroom had vanished. Journalists scrambled. Judges pounded gavels. Families of victims wept in shock. And in that moment, justice itself seemed to collapse. But what no one realized was that the true nightmare was only beginning. The air smelled of panic. Sweat, burnt wires from the sudden blackout. Guards rushed in, barking orders in Dutch and English. Metal doors slammed shut. But it was too late. Victor Armand, once seated calmly under the watch of the world, was gone. Cameras caught blurry figures slipping through a side exit. Others swore they saw shadows moving inside the judge's chamber. No one could agree. The judges retreated in shock. The prosecution demanded answers. But all the families heard was this. The man accused of destroying their lives had escaped. And in that courtroom, their grief turned into rage. News broke like wildfire. Headlines screamed across every screen. Victor Armand escapes international courtroom. Blackout at The Hague. Security failure or inside job? Outside the courthouse, thousands gathered. They held up pictures of missing loved ones. Their chants echoed across the city. Justice! 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 Meanwhile, inside a small office, investigators replayed the security footage frame by frame. One detail froze them. A judge's keycard had been used, the very moment the lights went out, which meant only one thing. The escape was planned from the inside. Interpol issued a red notice. Airports locked down. Borders sealed tight. Agents raided Victor's mansions. Paris, Geneva, Dubai. Everywhere they found the same thing. Empty homes, cold coffee cups, clothes left behind, as if someone had fled only minutes earlier. It was as though Victor had vanished into thin air. But behind the scenes, he was very much alive. 1 week later, a package arrived at a newsroom in Berlin. No return address. No fingerprints. Inside, a single USB stick. On it, grainy footage. The screen crackled. And then, Daniel appeared. The young activist who was supposed to be dead. His face was gaunt. His eyes darted side to side. And his voice trembled. They staged everything. The trial, the evidence, even my disappearance. Victor is not the only one. There are others. Bigger names. Higher than him. If you see this, it means I may already be gone. The video cut off. Journalists stared in silence. The world gasped. Victor's case was no longer just about him. It was about a shadowy network, one that reached deeper than anyone had imagined. Investigators traced the USB's origin. It had been mailed from inside The Hague, from a postal box 2 blocks from the very courthouse where Victor escaped. And the signature on the rental documents belonged to a senior court clerk. When officers stormed his apartment, they found him dead, slumped over his desk, a note beside him. I tried to help, but they found me first. On the wall, written in hurried strokes, a single word: serpent. No one knew what it meant, but it wouldn't be long before the world found out. Then came another shock. A broadcast hijack. In the middle of a French news program, screens went black. Then, Victor appeared, sitting in a dimly lit room. His sharp suit replaced by a black turtleneck. His smile as cold as ever. They call me a criminal, but I am only a symptom. The disease runs deeper. The same men who judged me dine with me in secret. Do you think they wanted justice? They wanted silence. The world froze. For the first time, Victor spoke directly, and his words spread like poison. He wasn't just defending himself. He was threatening to expose names, leaders, corporations, even judges, the very people who once called for his punishment. 3 months later, in a hidden safe house in Brussels, agents finally caught a break. A laptop, encrypted files. When unlocked, they revealed something chilling. Bank transfers, meeting transcripts, contracts written in blood and ink. And at the top of the documents, something no one expected. The name of a sitting judge from the International Court itself. One of the 3 who had been present at Victor's trial. The same judge who read the ruling the moment before the blackout. It was him. He had orchestrated the escape. He had silenced witnesses. And he had profited from Victor's empire. The betrayal was complete. By late 2019, the world demanded closure. The International Court reconvened in secret. But this time, there was no defendant. Victor was still at large. Daniel was still missing. And the judge accused of corruption had disappeared, leaving only a burned passport behind. In one chilling statement, a prosecutor whispered, "It was never about one man. It was about the system itself. And the system has been compromised." The families wept. Justice had slipped through their fingers once again. Today, the name Victor Armand lingers like smoke. His face on wanted posters. His voice in conspiracy forums. His empire still hidden in offshore accounts. Some say he lives in Russia under a new name. Others swear they saw him in Africa, funding wars in secret. But one thing is clear. The trial that began as a promise of justice ended as a warning to the world. A warning that when the powerful are judged, truth itself can be buried. The International Court case that left everyone speechless is more than a story. It is a mirror, showing us the cracks in the very walls of justice. Victor may have escaped, but the question remains, did he escape justice? Or was justice never really there at all? This is Dark Justice Files. The story of Victor Armand ends here, for now. But the shadows he left behind still haunt the world. What do you think? Was Victor guilty, or just a pawn in a bigger game? Comment below. And don't forget, subscribe to Dark Justice Files for more chilling stories where justice hangs by a thread. Because the fight for truth is far from over.